right? One, I played football at school means when I was at school, I played football. The other one, I played football for school means I represented the school. So my case, I am the first one. I played football at school, which means that I wasn't good at football. And when you're not good at football and your friends play football and you want to play with them, of course, the only position that they will offer you is goalkeeper because that's the position that you are very least likely to contribute towards goal scoring, right? And in 1982, in Barcelona, Spain, there was World Cup football, and Team Brazil had a goalkeeper by the name of Perez. And that Perez from Brazil and this Perez, I can guarantee you that we were equally great, you know. No penalty shootout had ever gone past us. But every time the defenders passed the ball to us, they would score their own goal. So that's how I developed my reputation, Coach Perez. And also because the name Perez is not too far away from the name Fairus. Okay, I am the Director of Efficient Frontier Consulting Sendirian Berhad. We are actually an international company conducting training and consultancy services to companies in countries from the whole of Southeast Asia. We've done work in Singapore, Brunei, Indonesia, Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, and we've also gone as far away as Oman in the Arab region for us to conduct our training programs, right? And by qualification, when I was little, I thought I wanted to be a lawyer because there was a legal series, law series called LA Law. And in LA Law, we saw lawyers wearing power jackets and they were driving their then Chevrolet was like the car that you dream to own. I mean, nowadays people talk about Mustang. So that was the reason why I decided to pursue law. And I went to UK and studied law at the University of Nottingham, UK. But when I was in the first year of studying law, I decided that I was not going to be a lawyer. So, but to cut a long story short, the first job that I had was a trainer. Now, by the way, I just backtrack a little bit. This is relevant to you when you're applying for a job. When I applied for jobs, I got rejected a lot, and I submitted more than 80 resumes for me to apply for jobs. And this is where all of you, my beloved friends and students here, you must remember in the process of application or applying for a job, if you apply for only 10 or 20 or 30 jobs, you have not applied enough. If you want to look for a job, you've got to apply for at least 100 positions. I am currently, as I'm speaking to you, I actually have another session that I'm conducting live for about 25 people, and it's resume and cover letter and resume writing boot camp. And it is actually in the hotel next door, and I'm actually at another hotel doing this session. And applying for a job applying for a job is actually a full-time job. So you gotta really apply for jobs. Now, going back to my story, when I came back from the UK and I applied for a job, I was rejected. I applied to more than 80 companies and I got called to about 5 to 6 interviews. And in all of the interviews that I went to, I was rejected. And the reason for rejection was that I was overqualified because I graduated with a law degree from University of Nottingham, United Kingdom, and I sat for my bar finals, and I only applied for simple jobs because I'm sure many of you will be thinking like me in the sense that we may have this qualification, it sounds so great, law degree from Nottingham, but we want to just do something simple like administrative executive, property executive, or marketing executive, business development executive. So this is where I got rejected a lot. And I remember once I went to an interview to apply for a position of HR executive, and the HR manager told me, Fairus, you're great, you carry yourself really well, and you have all the certificates, but we are not able to accept you in the job because you're overqualified. So that was for HR executive position, and the one saying it was HR manager. So I told the HR manager, Madam, if you think I'm overqualified for the job as an HR executive, don't reject me. If you think I'm overqualified to be an HR executive, make me HR manager. And the HR manager looked at me and said, I can't because I'm the HR manager and you're the HR executive. So I said, yes, you can. And she went, what do you mean? And I went, you say I'm overqualified to be an HR executive. You are the HR manager. If you think I'm overqualified to be an HR executive, why don't you make me HR manager? So she said, I can't. And I said, no, 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 you can. You resign and I replace. All right. So obviously, as you are probably guessing, I didn't get the job, right? But that's the thing. I mean, you will continue to face such situations where people will probably reject you because they perceive you as being overqualified for the job. So anyway, I became a trainer. And I was a trainer at an insurance company, Great Eastern Life. And then I moved on in my career and became a consultant. And among the pride of my career is that I actually conducted motivational training for our national athletes. By the way, may I request that all of you mute your sound because your sound is actually affecting my concentration in the presentation. So I would appreciate your cooperation to just mute your sound, please. Thank you very much. Right. So I conducted motivational training for our national athletes who represented our country in the Commonwealth Games in Kuala Lumpur in 1998. So among some of the people that I conducted training for, I mean, I think you know Datuk Malik Maidin, the man who swam across the English Channel. So he was one of my trainees, as well as Haji, the boxer who won gold in the championship, as well as the ladies gymnastics team, right? So, and I am also the senior master coach, as Cik Kas mentioned just now, for the National Service of Program Latihan Khidmat Negara. And I have been invited on TV as well as radio to talk on motivational subjects in English. For RTM2, I talked about the subject of Live, Laugh, Love, a series of motivational topics, as well as on National FM for the Aura segment. And I'm not young. I am almost into the age where I can withdraw all my EPF. But in my pastime, I actually like to run. So these are all pictures of me doing half marathons. This year, I do run half marathons, which is 21 kilometers. And this year, I actually targeted to run about 50 events. But because of the pandemic and because of the MCO PKP, then I could not continue with my goal, and I only managed to run 4 events this year. So that's a little bit about me. I hope you're comfortable with me. Boleh ke bahasa Melayu saya ni? Saya bukan tak boleh cakap Melayu tau. Saya boleh cakap Melayu saja je sebab ini grup orang-orang bahasa Inggeris. So saya memenuhi keperluan dan perintah klien. So all of you, can you please mute your sound, please? May I request that you mute your sound, especially those who joined through link one? Thank you very much. So anyway, as I was saying, saya boleh cakap Melayu. Saya adalah orang Jawa Johor. And kalau nak cakap Jawa pun boleh. But I think this is not the right forum for me to do that. Link one, can you please mute your sound, please? Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of noises. So anyway, So that's a bit about me, and what do I wish to achieve at the end or by the end of this 3 hour workshop. So by the end of this 3 hour workshop, I am expecting you to be able to recognize the importance of a cover letter. All right, and this is something sorely missing whenever we receive application from the now generation. Cover letters seem to be something which should be put in the museum, but you should actually know how to write a proper cover letter, because you must understand that the people who are working in the HR department are mostly around my age. All right. So, and you also need to identify the basic elements of a cover letter. What do you need to include? What do you need to incorporate? And you will be able to write an effective cover letter for a job application. So it's not just about writing any letter. It is about writing a letter that can potentially determine the future that you are going to have. And later, after 10:30, what we're going to do is we're going to ensure that we will be able to recognize the purpose and importance of a well-written resume. I get asked a lot this question, and a lot of people ask me, what's the difference between resume and curriculum vitae? Okay, what is the difference between resume and CV? Now, my answer is this, and I'm very sure Encik Kas has taught you well to answer the question on what is the difference between cover letter and resume. Then you got to ask yourselves this question: what is the difference between apartment and flat? Or what is the difference between elevators and lifts? Or what is the difference between highways, motorways, and expressways? So the answer is only one. No difference. So I'm going to ask again for those in link 1. Can you please mute your sounds? Can you please mute your sound? Those in link 1. I would humbly request that you mute your sound, please.
We couldn't hear you.
Yes.
It's in mute.
Uh,
Has it been that long? Have I been on mute for so long?
N- no. Just
No.
a little long.
Okay, I think instead of people muting the sound as I requested, I think someone muted me. Okay, so, thank you very much, whoever it is that reminded me of this. Thank you very much. All right. So anyway,
All right.
uh, a lot of us think that cover letters need to be long to impress. Wrong. A lot of us think that we need to write all the bombastic words that we can find in the dictionary so that we can look intelligent. Wrong. A lot of us think that we should use language that sounds like we just graduated from law school. Wrong. So you must understand that people who receive your cover letters are busy people, HR people are busy people. We got a lot on our mind. We got to think about, how to make sure that we can pay the salaries of our people during the pandemic and during the MCO PKP. We got to think about how to make our people happy with their bonuses, especially now it's October. And at the same time, you got to think about, who are the people that we're going to employ to join our company. So there's a lot of things that HR people are thinking, and they don't have time for them to entertain all sorts of all sorts of unnecessary language and all that in a cover letter. So why do we write cover letters? You know, so sometimes when you want to have the opportunity of getting a job, you got to understand that you got to ask nicely lah. I remember when I had a vacancy in my company, and we opened the invitation to people to apply for jobs. And there was this one application, the person applying for the job, and he wrote an email. And you know what he wrote on his email as a subject? He just wrote, Saja cuba nasib. Okay. Now you're applying for a job. You want to be an executive in a large organization, and all you could afford to write in the subject of your email is Saja cuba nasib. And there was no content. It was just that. In the subject of his email, he just wrote Saja cuba nasib. Right. So obviously, needless to say, we just put aside his application. But me being a trainer, I continue using his application as an example of how not to apply for a job in my talks. Okay. So that's that. And then we had another vacancy in our consultancy company. And somebody told me, my nephew is interested to apply for that position in your company. I said, go ahead, apply. And then the application came in, and the subject that he wrote in his email is resumes. And the content of the email is empty. And the attached so-called resumes that he included were all photos of resumes that he snapped, and he just attached those. So I told my friend and I said, look at your nephew's application. I'm not sure whether he's serious about applying or not. So I asked my friend to tell his nephew to resend his application. So he resent his application. And this time around, the subject is resumes. And then the content is attached. So as the owner of the company, as the director of the company, when I received that kind of thing, immediately what crossed my mind is that, this guy is not really serious about wanting the job. Can you imagine if I employ this guy and he joins my company, and I ask him to send a message to a very important client? If he writes to that very important client, imagine what kind of language he will use. And I may even lose a very important business. So that's basically cover letter. What are the purposes of cover letter that we have? And number one is we want to introduce ourselves. Ladies and gentlemen in this forum, when I say you have to introduce yourselves, by no means I mean you start your cover letter by writing, my name is Mohamad Fairus bin Shidi. No, no, no. Why no? Because when you write your cover letter, right at the very top of your cover letter, you will already have your name. So we are not in kindergarten anymore. We are now one of the figures on the statistics of the people applying for a job. So we gotta sound professional. Okay, remember this, huh? Never begin your cover letter with I am Muhammad Fairus bin Shidi, or my name is Muhammad Fairus bin Shidi. It just gives us, the HR people or the directors of the company, the impression that you have not grown up enough, that you don't know how to act in a professional manner. By the way, ladies, gentlemen, I shall forward the soft copy of my presentation to Encik Kas so that Encik Kas can share with you later. Okay? But you can feel free to take notes or to snap a photo of whatever slides that I'm showing you. And secondly is that we write a cover letter to mention the job or the kind of job that we are applying for or we are looking for. So if you know the position that you're applying for, then you can write what is that position that you are applying for. Okay, link one, mute your sound, please. So if you know it, you mention it. And, but sometimes you're just applying for any vacant position. So if you're applying for any vacant position, don't just tabur, apa orang kata, tabur jala kan. Tabur jala and harap-harap adalah ikan besar yang masuk. Don't do that. Jangan tembak peluru tabur and harap-harap adalah burung-burung dekat atas pokok tu yang jatuh. No, it doesn't work that way. Even if there is no specific position that you're applying for, you must give an idea to your prospective employer about what can you possibly do in that organization. How can you potentially contribute in that organization? And you write a cover letter to match your skills, abilities, and experiences with the skills, abilities, and experiences required for the job. In the boot camp that I'm conducting currently, I'm vetting, I'm checking their cover letter. And the requirement that I give to the people preparing the cover letter is this, that please attach the job requirement. For example, if you are applying, for the job of an art designer, okay, and the job requires that you have qualification in the relevant field, and then the job says creative, innovative, and can work independently. So you must be able to mention facts that appear in the advertisement, the requirement of the job. So let's say, for example, coach, I'm applying for the job of a training manager in the bank. And then the advertisement says, okay, have experienced in conducting training, okay, have strong leadership skill, for example, right? So one of the things that I will mention in my cover letter is I am an HRDF certified trainer, because it says I must be able to conduct training or have experience in conducting training. And I say I am an HRDF certified trainer and I have been conducting training for the last 28 years. So I will mention that because it is exactly matching to whatever advertisement that the potential employer has included. And then it says, possesses strong leadership skills. Now, I don't write exactly, I possess strong leadership skill. That will be almost like plagiarism, you just plagiarize that sentence from the advertisement and then you use it. But what I will do is I will say, while I was working in the bank, I managed a team of 10 trainers and 5 administrative officers. Okay, and while I was in the insurance company, I headed a department where I had 13 people working under me. right? So that could be an indicator of the strong leadership skill and ability that I have. Okay, and the cover letter also reminds us to select qualifications or experiences that are most relevant to the position. One thing that I observe in the so many applications that we have vetted like thousands, right? And one thing that I notice is that there is a fondness, okay, there is a fondness of applicants listing down every single thing that they have. Now, when you graduate from Polytechnic, maybe you want to still include your experience in working at McDonald's or A&W, or the 7-Eleven store. Yes, maybe. But as you progress in your career, then you want to slowly fade out, delete those experiences that do not add much value. For example, coach, I myself, when I was in the UK, I worked at McDonald's. I also made burgers. I seared burgers and I dressed the burgers. And, I was in the kitchen. So when I came back to Malaysia, of course, I mentioned the fact that I worked at McDonald's. It's not an insult. People see your perseverance. People see your resilience. People see that you are not calculative in terms of what you're doing. So you can still include it. But as I progress in my career after 3 years, and I've developed enough experience in my then current job, there's no more need for me to mention that I work at McDonald's. Okay. And of course, we write for the purpose of encouraging the reader to read the resume. Okay. So don't just write a cover letter that does not encourage, or rather that does not entice the readers to read further. Okay. Imagine this. You have a product, and when you have a product, you want to prepare your brochure, right? So you want to prepare your brochure. Surely you write all good things about what your product can do. In this case, when you're applying for a job, the product is you. You are the product. Write good things about yourself. Okay. Don't underestimate yourself. Many people whom I have coached have asked me, should I apply for this job? And I tell them, just apply. For example, there's a vacancy which coach shared with my alumni, and for this shopping complex that is opening near my office, which is in Kinrara, Bukit Jalil. It's Pavilion Bukit Jalil, and I shared with my alumni. And the first comment that they wrote was, it actually, the deadline was in April of this year. In April of this year. So should we still apply? Right? And coach said, apply lah. Number one is what happened in April. We had a PKP. We had an MCO. The post offices were not open. People were not allowed to get out. How do you expect people to apply then? So the shopping complex knows this. Obviously, they will offer an extension, which they may not tell, but they do. Or number two, there may be people who have applied for the position and none of them qualified. So when you apply for the position, you may be the only one candidate who actually matches the criteria that they have. Simply apply. And then there's another person who asked me, Coach, this position that I'm applying for, it suits my qualification, but the requirement is I must be able to speak Bahasa Melayu, English, and Mandarin. Should I apply? So coach said to him, apply lah. Because, as you see from the order of importance, it's Bahasa Melayu, English, Mandarin. So what if you don't have Mandarin? Maybe your ability to speak Bahasa Melayu and English is so great that there's no need for you to be able to speak Mandarin. Never underestimate yourselves, right? So when you go into the job market, You'll be competing against people from the university, people from, other colleges. Don't worry about it. You just must be confident in what you have been able to develop and what you are capable of contributing to the company. And then your cover letter should be finished with a call of action. And by call of action, what do we mean? That we want to be given an opportunity for an interview. So rightfully, your cover letter should always end with, I look forward to an opportunity to meet Encik Fairus. And get used to mentioning the name, right? I look forward to the opportunity to meet Encik Fairus to discuss the potential of my contribution in Tesco, for example. You know, so you have to finish your cover letter with a call of action. So I will be sharing with you what are some of the basic elements of a cover letter. Number one is, and this is a lot of people make this mistake, that in the cover letter that they write, they don't even bother to write their correspondence address. At the top of your cover letter, of formal correspondence, right? There's a template for formal correspondence that we learned when we wanted to pass our Bahasa Melayu and English when we sat for SPM. And sadly, many of us have decided to leave it in school the moment we finished our last paper for SPM. Sad. So when you write your cover letter, you have to have your name and your correspondence address. Many applications that coach received, many of them, what they did was they simply wrote their email address at the top. Okay, link one, mute your link, please. Okay, and the date. And that's another thing. Although I'm sharing with you the British format, the American format, something that you all need to know is that in Malaysia, we follow the British format lah. Okay? So ignore that American format. American format is October the 7th, 2020. The English format is 7 October 2020 or 7th October 2020. However, many organizations in their guidelines, in their SOP, they have expressly instructed their employees to use the first one. No TH, no TH, no RD, no ND. Be careful, because if you use the TH, RD, and ND, you may appear to be uneducated to the potential employers. And what do I mean by that? Some people, they write, number two, 2 TH Oktober 2020. 2 TH. So dia jadi 2nd October 2020. Dan kita tengok tu, and then kita kata budak ni tak belajar ke? So you don't want to let your potential employers to have that impression. Or I've also come across a few where 23 ND. So I also don't know how to pronounce it. 23rd 23rd October. So be very careful, right? Use British format, and the format of writing the date in your cover letter is number, no RD, no TH, no ND, number, full spelling of the month, and then the year. So that's how you actually write the date. And then you have to have the name and the, oh, by the way, the date is on the left, flushed to the left. So you don't write the date on the right. Okay, so it's all in one line. It's all in one line. Don't flush the date to the other side. Then the date will feel very, very lonely. That my writer has ignored me and my potential employer does not want to accept me. Okay, so everything in one line. Then you have the name and address of the person or company you're writing to. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you must remember, yeah, make an effort to find out who is the person in charge. And normally it's HR, but take note, a lot of companies have different ways of calling HR. Most companies will be calling it human resource. Some companies will call it human capital development department. Some companies will call it talent department. A few old-fashioned companies, HR matters will be handled by finance and admin. Okay, link one. Finance and admin, right? So when you are applying for a job, make an effort to find out what is the correct department that is handling your application, and make an effort to find out who is the person sitting on the chair of, accepting your application. Then you've got to have the name of the company as well as the address of the company. So this is basically an example. That's not my real address, so don't attempt to look for coach in that address. So for example, if I'm applying for a job, then I will write my name, Mohamad Fairus bin Shidi, 1 Jalan Panglima Kaca, Bangsa, 58,000 Kuala Lumpur. Then in terms of the date, I write 7 October 2020. And I'm writing to Mr. Thomas Tan, Human Resource Manager, ABC Company Sdn Bhd, 54 Kawasan Pendustrian Light, 47,000 Pelabuhan Kelang. So that's an example. And ladies and gentlemen, number one is avoid using to whom it may concern, because it just tells us that you're not making enough effort to know who is in charge of it. Pick up the phone, call the company, ask the receptionist or ask the operator, may I know who is in charge of HR? May I know what is the name of the HR manager, or at the very least the HR executive? Ask. And again, in the boot camp that I'm having currently, this is a sad, shocking discovery that I have, that people just don't pick up the phone. Even though in the 3 days, and for you, I'm doing it for 3 hours, for these people, I'm doing it for 3 days. Even though over the 3 days, we've been harping on them, pick up the phone. And until today, none of them pick up the phone to find out who the HR manager is. It's very sad. It's very sad because you are really desperate for a job, but you are not willing to make extra effort for you to find out who you are writing to. So when you write your cover letters, of course, you have to remember certain things. And one is definitely salutation. Yesterday, I discovered somebody who wrote to a managing director. Let's say the name of the managing director is Ishaq bin Amran. Let's just say that, right? And this person wrote the cover letter, Dear Ishaq. Okay. Now, in that kind of situation, you have two potential impacts. Number one is Encik Ishaq will just put aside your application and he will not call you. Number two, if Encik Ishaq is actually coach, let's say you write to me and you say, Dear Mohamad Fairus, you can be guaranteed that I will call you for interview. Why? Not to offer you a job, but to send you back to school. Dalam bahasa Jawa Pontian dia, untuk sekolahkan kau. So meaning to say, when you write to someone, please show respect. Give the salutation. Kalau dia seorang datuk, then you write YB dekat depan. YBHG kalau dia bukan orang politik. Right? So you've got to You got to really know how to respect people. And again, as coach said, I will call for interview, but when I call for interview, it is not for the purpose of seeing how the person can help my company, but it is for the purpose of sending that person back to school. Imagine kalau dalam first letter pun dia dah tulis Dear Muhammad Fairus. When he joins my company, he will probably call me Fairus. And he's probably 23 years old, 24 years old, and I'm 53. So at least show some respect. So you can use Dear Sir, Madam, especially when you do not know the gender or name of the person to whom you're writing. You can use Dear Sirs. Okay, that person I know is very tiring to listen to the talk for an hour, but just mute yourself so I can't hear your sigh. Okay. So dear sirs, when you know that more than one person is good, unless you want me to hear your sigh lah, on purpose, then I don't know, right? So dear sirs, when you know that more than one person is going to read your letter, for example, when you write to the owners of the company, or dear Mr. Thomas Tan. Okay, so if the person is like the name is Thomas Tan, so you can just use dear Mr. Tan actually. All right, so Mr. Thomas Tan is acceptable, but you can use Mr. Tan. Don't use dear Mr. Thomas lah. Okay, if the person's name is Audrey Lim and you know that she's married, then dear Mrs. Audrey Lim, or dear Ms. Samantha, Ms. Samantha, used before a surname or full name of a female, regardless of whether she's married or not. So in other words, for ladies, non-Malay, it's safe for you to just use Ms. Forget about overthinking. Or sometimes we overthink. Nak guna Mrs. ke nak guna Madam Tak payah fikir. Just guna Ms. Because if you use Ms is MS. If you use Ms, that covers whether the person is married or not. Okay? Or you can use dear Ms. Joyce. Just one thing that I want to remind you. I see a lot in the application. Dear Mr. Mohamad Fairus. Okay? Dear Mr. Mohamad Fairus. Dear Ms. Jamaiyah. Nama pun dah Melayu. So you tak payahlah nak bermister-mister sangat dengan orang Melayu. Right? So kalau the name is Muhammad Fairus, then you just write Dear Encik Muhammad Fairus. Encik, Melayu encik, Melayu puan, right? Ataupun cik, if you know that this person is not married. So usually the safest for you to go is for you to go cik lah kalau perempuan, ya. I always ask my coaches, when they write Mr. Adnan, Mr. Hamdan, Mr. Azri. Let's say the person's name is like my name, Now I'm a Haj. So let's say I'm Tuan Haji Muhammad Fairus bin Shidi. So how do you translate my title? Takkan you nak tulis Dear Sir Pilgrim. Dear Sir Pilgrim Muhammad Fairus bin Shidi. Takkan you nak tulis macam tu, right? Because it just doesn't sound right. So if a person is a Tuan Haji, you just write Dear Tuan Haji, or Dear Encik, or Dear Puan, or Dear Cik. So this is an example, right? So this is a format. So you got your name and address at the top, and then you have got the date in the middle, and then you got the prospective employer's details below the date, and then you have got here, Dear Mr. Tan. Okay. Right. And if you know the person, if you write the name of the person, or if you know the person, in the case of Mr. Thomas Tan, if you know him, then when you close your cover letter, you will close with yours sincerely. If you are British, or you can close with sincerely yours, but I don't recommend it. Americans have really really killed the English language, and the British people are not very happy with the Americans for it, right? So just write yours sincerely. But if you haven't written the name of the person, or you don't know the person, then you sign off with yours faithfully. However, it is not something that will cause you to be penalized if you write it wrong. Okay, it's okay, because sometimes even the HR people receiving the letter, they themselves also are not sure whether to sign off with yours faithfully or yours sincerely. Okay, all right, so that's basically on how you close it. So what are the basic elements of a cover letter? And number one is, you must indicate the name of the job you're applying for. So you indicate the position on the line by itself, just one line. Application for administrator, or application for the position of administrator. Okay, and you also indicate the position in the opening paragraph. I am writing to apply for the recently advertised administrator position, for example, right? So you have to write there, or you can say, in reference to your advertisement in the Star newspaper, I am writing to apply for the recently advertised administrator position. So you can do that. I think someone's sound is on, and it is basically affecting my focus. Can you all please have yours on mute function, please? Okay, so this is an example of application for the position of administrative officer or administrator. So that's an example that you have. Okay, then you have to list your relevant skills. I know by the time you graduate from Polytechnic, you may not have developed the relevant skills through your job attachment. May not have, but then you can enhance whatever skills that you have acquired, you have learned, you have practiced while you're at Polytechnic. So you can include a brief summary of your skills and experiences that matches the job description. So for example, if at Poly, you have done or you have undergone modules on certain things that you mentioned, through the module that I went through, I was able to develop my skills in this, and make sure that the skills are relevant to the position that you're applying for. I know it involves a lot of thinking. I know it involves a lot of planning, but you got to do it. You got to do it. So this at the beginning of this session that applying for a job is a full-time job. You must plan. You must have in writing first, what are you going to type? Get someone to check, especially while you still have a Cik Kasmara with you. You probably can get a Cik Kasmara's help for him to check your cover letter, for him to check that your English is okay, for him to check that whatever skills that you write are relevant to the position, and respond to all the essential skills and experiences from the job advertisement. So let's say, if I apply for the position of HR manager, and the essential skills listed in the job is, able to use Microsoft Excel, example only. Then I will write in my resume, in my job as an HR manager, I use Excel to tabulate and calculate the salaries of the staff, which ensures that the salaries paid at the end of the month are 100% accurate. For example only. So if they say must be able to use, a certain HR app, then I can say, at our company, we use the other app for us to do this. So this will enable me to perform an effective task, right? So this is what we mean by respond to all the essential skills that appear in the job advertisement. And you need to also respond to as many as possible from the desirable skills and experiences. So for example, the advertisement says must be able to speak, English comfortably. So you respond lah. I am able to converse in English well to achieve the outcomes that I want. Something like that, because coach is thinking off the cuff. So I'm giving you an off the cuff example. And mention some jobs where you have acquired these experiences and or used the skill. It could be your current job. It could be your experience at poly, certain things that you have done, which actually gives you the skills. Skills that we talk about could actually be, problem solving skills. Maybe as a student counselor, you have had an issue where during the pandemic, you have got your fellow students who have come from afar and they're already on the campus. And then suddenly, your college, your poly issued a circular saying, we will remain closed. And these people need to go back to their kampongs and they don't have any means, they don't have any money. So maybe you all help these students to find ways so that they can actually go back to their hometown. So that's problem solving skill. So you must be proud to include it in your resume so that people know you have the ability to handle such situations. Okay. And apart from that, you need have a summary of why you are the right candidate for the job. Okay, so you need to explain how your skills and experiences make you the right candidate. So let's say, for example, again, as a student counselor, so you have already been able to sort out the problems of the new students who came only for 10 minutes and then they had to go back to their hometown. Then you can explain my problem solving ability will be able to help your organization address any issues and concerns at a professional level. Again, this is only an example. Please don't copy paste 100% what coach said. And this is again another favorite activity that a lot of alumni and job applicants do. We say something, they copy paste. You must be creative, right? So I'm just giving an example. Then you match your cover letter to the job. So you need to personalize your cover letter to the job and to the organization. That means what, do not prepare one cover letter, you print 40, then you just tukar the name and address of the companies. Lepas tu you discover that ada benda yang you terlupa tukar. And then the company will say, how can I accept somebody yang kerja dia plagiarize sahaja? Fine tune it. Walaupun kerja yang you apply tu mungkin sama. Mungkin you're applying for the position of technician. Well, generally technicians are the same. Tapi tukarlah one or two ayats, for you to make sure that every cover letter that you prepare is different from the others. So what the people that are in my boot camp now, they are doing the work now. What the people at my boot camp are doing, or I have asked them to do, is to prepare 10. And when they prepare 10, I lay out all the 10 cover letters on the table. And I straight away, I skim through to check whether, they have been doing just an easy job of copy pasting everything. Okay. Then in terms of the closing, you request the reader to read your resume, meaning to say what? Thank you very much for your attention to my resume. Don't say, please read my resume. No, thank you very much for your attention to my resume. Bahasa dia kena adapt sikit lah. Okay. Then you request for an interview. Don't write, may I have an interview with you? No, you write, I look forward to an opportunity for an interview. Tapi kena cakap kenapa? So that I can explain to you how I can contribute to your organization. So bila you tulis macam itu, then the people reading your cover letters will know that you have finesse. Tahu finesse tak? You just style sikit lah, Wow, budak-budak Politeknik Muadzam Shah, very well trained by their English lecturer. You dapat nama, Mr. Kas pun dapat, Encik Kas pun dapat nama, Politeknik pun dapat nama, and you will suddenly have a spike up in the numbers of employability from Politeknik Muadzam Shah. And I'm not kidding, in the recruitment drive that we have been having, sometimes we are surprised that candidates from the lesser known universities, they do better than candidates from established universities. Again, betul, tak tipu. There are a couple of colleges that we have in Kedah and Terengganu, and we have never heard of the name of the colleges. And yet the products of the colleges, they perform, they fare better than the products of established universities. So you still have your chance. Don't worry about it. So what are some of the things that you need to remember? This is just an example. These are some examples of how you want to start your first paragraph. So maybe you want to start by writing, I am interested in the position of administrator, which was advertised on JobStreet on, okay, I recommend you to write 20 March 2020, and enclosed is my resume for your perusal, please. Okay. Number 2 is maybe your advertisement in the website for the position of finance executive refers. I'm a finance graduate from UUM or Politeknik Muadzam Shah with 1 year experience in budget reporting, and enclosed is my resume for your perusal, please. Okay. And thirdly could be, I hold a business admin degree and am experienced in frontline customer service. I'm keen to work for your company in a people-related position, especially frontline customer service. Or you can go, I understand that there is an opportunity for an event planner in your organization, and my 2 years experience in planning and executing events for an event company makes me an ideal candidate for this position. So these are some of the options of how you can play around with it. So maybe after my session, you may want to start playing around with it. You may want to start practicing writing the opening first paragraph of your cover letter. It doesn't matter if it's going to be a long time before you graduate. Doesn't matter, because skills is something that you develop over time. So you write, and then maybe you can get a JCAS or your other lecturers to check in terms of your language and all that. And then you also have samples for your last paragraph. Now for your last paragraph, these are some examples. So maybe you can go, thank you for your time. I look forward to hearing from you, and I can be contacted at, then you give your number, right? Or thank you for your time and consideration. I would like an opportunity to learn more about this position and demonstrate how I can contribute to your organization. I can be reached at your number to schedule an interview. Or you can go, I appreciate your time and consideration and hope that my skills and experience align with your needs. Attached is my resume, and I can be contacted at, give your number. Or you can go, thank you for considering my application. I look forward to an opportunity to show you how I can be of assistance in your organization. Attached is my resume, and I would be happy to provide any additional information you might need. Something that you must remember in cover letter is that you must never write, I hope. That one you must never write. There's nothing wrong grammatically. I hope to hear from you. Nothing wrong. Grammatically. English-wise, nothing wrong. I hope to be called for an interview. Nothing wrong. But it does not show that you are someone dynamic. Because you can hope, and then the thing will still not come to you. So instead of writing, I hope to hear from you, or I hope to be called for an interview, then go use look forward. I look forward to hearing from you. I look forward to an opportunity for an interview. So you sound more dynamic. So you sound like, you're telling them, panggil aku, macam tu. Okay, so you sound like that. So this is basically some fine tips that you have about writing cover letters. So when you write your cover letter, you keep it short and sweet. Don't write anything more than one page for cover letter. Also, never, never, ever, ever have 2 pages, and then on the next page is just like, thank you, yours sincerely, and then you sign off. Buang kertas. So if you do that, you might as well relook at your cover letter. There may be a few things that you can do lah. Number one is, there may be certain lines yang tak dapat point pun. Kan? I remember when I was sitting for SPM, and this was way back in 1984. And my geography teacher taught us about how to answer geography questions. And sampai sekarang coach ingat pesanan dia. I don't know whether the teacher is still around or not. Dia kata, each essay, each answer, you get 25 points. Therefore, write 25 facts and then stop. Tak payah engkau nak tulis panjang-panjang, lepas tu engkau berharap dapat point. Harap-harap ada yang sangkut. Tak ada nah. Sebab dia tak ada fakta. Same as cover letter. Focus on facts. Focus on data. Don't write. Ramai orang yang bila dia tulis tu, dia tulis bahasa, I wish to humbly apply for a good position in your esteemed organization. Okay, itu bahasa orang tua tau. Bahasa orang tua. Coach yang dah tua ni pun tak guna bahasa tu tau. Right? I wish to apply for a good position in your esteemed organization. Ini bahasa turun-temurun. And when you check with the people who write like this kan, why do they write like this? Their answer will be, because my boss always write like this. Because my father write like this. Because my English teacher at school write like this. Lepas tu you tanya dia punya English teacher, why you write like this? And then the English teacher say, because our English teacher write like this. And then if you meet with your English teacher and then you ask, why you write like this? And then the English teacher pun kata, because our English teacher write like this. You know what that is or not, ladies and gentlemen? Itu namanya saka tau. Tahu saka saka. Turun-temurun tau. Diwarisi daripada zaman British Empire, masuk Melaya, sampailah sekarang ke sekarang. Itu namanya saka. Do away with it. Because HR people are business people and they expect to read business language. Okay? And another thing is, attached herewith, please find. Itu pun bahasa saka. Attached herewith, please find. You should use a business language. I have attached my resume. Very direct, very business. Okay? Ataupun you kata, please do not hesitate to contact the undersigned. Pun saka juga. Banyak saka. Dalam satu surat tu kadang-kadang coach tengok banyak saka. Yang mana kita tak tahu nak gelak ke, tak gelak ke, kesian pun ada kan. So you don't want to have people's pity. Right? Do not cut and paste your entire resume into your cover letter. Sebab tadi kan coach ada mention kan, that you must have your relevant experience, relevant skills in your cover letter. But it doesn't mean you must cut and paste. Right? You stylize it. You personalize it so that your cover letter looks different from your resume. Okay? Avoid using I too much. Example, I believe, I have, and I am. And when you prepare your cover letter, you must make sure that you proofread it, you edit it, and you do spell check on it. And something that as a prospective employer, what I'm really upset in reading the letters written by the younger generation. I beg your pardon. I hope you are not like that when you come out from poly. I see laziness. Laziness in the sense that, um, when they type, most probably they prepare your cover letter by typing on the phone, right? So when they tap their phone, between one sentence to another, there's no space. So one sentence and then they put full stop, immediately the next sentence, there's no space. Tapi kita belajar dalam tulisan, selepas satu titik, dia mesti ada space. I see a lot of cases like this. One. Number two, I see a lot of people when they're applying for a job, they are so... Okay, someone is photostating something. Just mute your sound, please, sir or madam. Thank you. Another kemalasan is huruf I tu. I. Too lazy to write capital letter I. Okay. So most likely again, they use their phone and then they simply type whatever is fast. Okay. So they type whatever is fast. So they don't bother to actually capitalize it. So if they use their computer, they don't press the shift button for them to have I. Another thing is a lot of the applicants, they are too lazy to write will and have. So instead of writing, I have experience in the following areas, then they write I've. I apostrophe VE. I've. Or instead of going, I will be continuing my studies, they go, I'll be continuing my studies. In a formal letter, itu berdosa namanya. Okay, berdosa sebab malas. Okay, make an effort, guys. Make an effort. Because as a prospective employer, we want to take a look at, budak ni boleh pakai tak ni? Rajin tak dia ni? Because in one cover letter, it can actually be sending a lot of messages to us, your prospective employer. Okay, so these are some of the things that that we can remember when we want to actually prepare our cover letters. So of course, after tea break later on, your own tea lah, because I heard someone's mother saying dah masak ke apa tadi Encik Kas kata kan, your own tea break, your own time, tea break will be served by your mother or your sister. So when I come back later, I will actually be sharing with you about resumes, and I think this is something that you really want to know. However, Encik Kas and also Puan, okay, hold on, and also Tuan-Tuan and Puan-Puan from Politeknik Sultanah Bahia, those of you who are online, encourage your students now for them to start getting into the practice of writing cover letters. Right? Don't wait until it is the time for you to apply for a job. Then only you want to start writing cover letters. By that time, you have a lot of pressure. You have a pressure of making sure that your cover letter goes out fast. You have a pressure of making sure everything is, you don't miss the deadline. Get into practice now. What you need to do now is identify the companies that you want to apply for, the positions that you're interested in, and then you start drafting your cover letters. Okay, I'm so sorry I exceeded by 1 minute because my laptop time shows 10:13, but then my watch time shows 10:13, but my phone time shows 10:16. I'm not sure what is the actual time. So thank you very much. So that's my sharing for cover letter. And I will now pass to Encik Kas to announce the break.